Hi folks, and thanks for joining me. I'm regularly asked, even when I'm out on a trip, people stop me saying, how do you keep that bike so clean? So I'm going to show you how. I'm actually going to give it a full valet today, but I'm going to break it up into sections so I don't bamboozle you with all the different products I use for each different stage. So we'll start with the washing of the bike first. Now, things you need for that. So first of all, if you have access to a hose, then all well and good, because that breaks up the real tough mud, which is caked normally to the front of the bike. Next of all, 2 buckets of warm water, one with your detergent in and one to rinse your sponge. Very important that the warm water, because it helps with the evaporation, so leaving less stains. The real thick mud off the front of the bike, I of course use muck off, and as you can see there's not much left in there, so that's just prompted me to go on to Amazon this afternoon and buy another one, but there'll be enough for today's purpose anyway. One other thing to bear in mind when you're cleaning your bike is not to do it in direct sunshine, because then you will be left with streaks as it dries off the water too quick. And the most important thing about washing a motorbike, the obligatory cup of coffee. I nearly forgot. Right, let's get to it. So the first thing I do is to hose the bike down, and this just helps break up all the debris from the roads. I was actually out recording one of my lockdown spins yesterday, and I didn't go very far, well obviously within the 5k limit, and the amount of rubbish which has come up off the roads. Actually I'll go around the other side before I wash it all off, and I'll show you. Frightening how much your bike collects, even though I was only out for, what, 20 minutes or so. The reason I don't use a pressure washer is because there are so many delicate parts on a bike, like the rubber seals and indeed the seals on the chain and everything as well. So I don't mind using the narrow part of a hose, but I really wouldn't use a pressure washer, just in case you do break any of the seals. Then that would be a very, very expensive wash. So where I normally use the muck off in the summer, I definitely use it on the windscreen of the bikes, because as you know, it just gets full of flies, and this is great stuff for getting rid of that. Don't have any there after yesterday's ride at this time of year, so I'm just going to use this sparingly and spray in places like that, because as you can see I am nearly out. And I'm sure I can get the rest off with some hot soapy water. So what I normally do is to leave that for about 10 minutes to work its way into all the grime there, and go off for another top up of coffee, and come back, like I say, in 10 minutes. After your 10 minutes are up, I try and get a brush around the wheels as well, because normally, especially using muck off, most of the heavy stuff is broken up, and as you can see the wheels are already coming up lovely. I don't rub too hard and make sure this is a very soft brush. So all I'm doing is breaking this stuff up at the moment, and then I'm going to wash the bike down with the hose again before I then apply the detergent with the sponge. So I'll just give it another wash down again, just to get rid of all the residue of the mud and the tarmac, because it does just sit normally in places where you don't want it to sit, and as soon as you put a sponge over it, you're at great risk of scratching your bike, and none of us like to do that. So I do normally start with the heavier soiled areas again, so just this area down here, the engine bay. And again, it's all a bit of a time process. It allows all the muck and grime to break up as you're washing the rest of the bike. Now this is where I use the second bucket, just to rinse everything out of the sponge. You don't want any little bits of grit or stones scratching the bike. I'm particularly more careful when I'm cleaning this bike rather than any other bike, and again, just because of the chrome. So go over the whole bike just with a sponge and the warm water. It's coming up lovely, actually. This is a great bike to clean, because you can see instant results because of the chrome. But sure, any bike's great to clean. I've mentioned in previous videos I get as much enjoyment out of cleaning bikes as I do riding them. It's sort of, well, it definitely bothers me if I've been out on a spin and I know the bike has gone back in the shed with crap all over it. It's always on my mind until I can get out and wash the bike down and get rid of it. Yes, I know, I'm an anorak. And just make sure you've got no bits of grit on your sponge, especially when you're doing your exhaust, because the finest of scratches, you wouldn't believe how much they show up. Okay, one last hose down, get rid of all the suds. The rooster agrees as well. Now for the drying part. Now, when I told my wife I'd gone out and bought an industrial strength hairdryer for my motorbike, I think she nearly packed another suitcase. She's already at the end of her tether with my motorcycle addiction. I'm sure a lot of you can identify with that. But anyway, this is a great tool. It's important to get into all the nooks and crannies because as we all know, rust can crop up anywhere on a motorbike, so this really helps dry the entire bike down in those difficult to get to places. One last dusting over, and then you can use a cloth just to get anything else really, like on the seat here. You're never going to really dry that fully with the dryer. So just use a dry cloth just to go over the bike once you've used the dryer. Now time for the polishing and the waxing. So what I normally use on my bikes is the Auto Glym range. I really like their polishes. They last more than 1 or 2 washes as well. So it's tough stuff, it's really good. But because we're using chrome here, what I use for chrome is this, if I can get it out my pocket whilst holding the camera with the other hand. This is Hellshine wax. So this is already on the tank, and as you could see the water falling off the tank before. This is a great job. For the exhaust, because of the heat generated from an exhaust, I use WD-40 and just spray that on sparingly and then rub it in with a dry cloth. So with the Hellshine, you need the tiniest of bits, just because it's got to go on really sparingly, because with this you apply it, then I normally leave it about 15-20 minutes and let it harden, and then you buff it up, and that's how it's long lasting. It's really good stuff. So this, unfortunately, I've kept mine in the shed and it's gone a little bit too hard, so we'll get there. So the tiniest of bits and rub it on in a circle. You probably can't see that on camera, but believe me, that's all it needs. Just the most sparing of bits on the duster. And then I use the Auto Glym range for any plastic parts on the bike. I even use it on the engine casing as well, because as you can see, it's a dull chrome, it's not a polished chrome. So indeed the cream from the Auto Glym is fantastic stuff. So, and again, rub around in a circle. I'll leave this on for 20 minutes as well, and then come back out and buff her up into a lovely shine. So you can apply this everywhere, all over the frame of the bike, but it's fantastic for your fairings. If you have fairings on your bike, the plastic fairings, it really brings them up into an amazing sheen. Now for the exhausts, I always spray this onto a cloth because it stops it going everywhere. And again, you only need to apply that sparingly, especially around the end of the exhausts where the moisture gathers when it's inside a garage. Now, I let that dry as well for 10 minutes, even though it doesn't harden up or anything, but then I come out and just buff off the excess and let it seep into all the nooks and crannies around the exhaust, and that's all good. So there you have it, an absolutely spotless bike, quite apt that this particular Royal Enfield Continental GT is called the Mr. Clean version. Well, it certainly is now. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed already, please do, because all of your help and support helps me bring you future videos like this. But for now, Dave Perry, Wheelie Good TV, over and out.